Welcome to worship this morning, our online worship. I just want to thank you. My name is Matthew Blackburn, the Director of Youth Ministry here at the church, and just want to thank you for all the ways that you guys are the church. And don't forget, this is our stewardship season. If you haven't received a pack or have a pledge card, please consider doing that, and it helps us to continue all the great work that we do together as a church. So thank you for being part of this church, and thank you for worshiping with us this morning.
"'Twas the month of December. 'Twas the month of December, and in homes and at church, UWF members were intent on a Christmas recipe search. They were looking for ideas for cakes, cookies, and pies, in hopes of baking goodies to delight and surprise. The ladies went through all of their recipe files. Each cook planned special items that would bring lots of smiles. Some crispy, some chewy, and some with a glaze. No matter the type, the taste would amaze. On late nights in each kitchen there arose such a clatter, spouses and kids sprang from their beds to see what was the matter. Just Mom working away with mixers, pots, pans, and spoons, making pound cakes and baklava and sweet macaroons. Most cookies use vanilla, some use lemon and lime. Each yummy flavor offered will be simply sublime. The date of the cookie walk is the 8th of December. Circle that day on your calendar so you will remember. A pinch of this and a hint of that, then rolling the dough until it is flat. After the sifting and stirring these ladies will do, the delicious results of their labors will be taste tempting for you. There may be snickerdoodles, fudge, some cakes, some toffee, and chocolate, cinnamon, and spices to enjoy with your coffee. Do you need sugar-free items? Want something crunchy? Chex Mix Rice Krispie treats are great when you need a munchie. As the cookie walk nears and the days seem to fly, these dedicated bakers seek more recipes to try. Then on Saturday, December 7th, to the church they will scurry. They'll be bringing baked goods to sort and stack in a flurry. And then in a twinkling, they'll roll filled carts up and down, working together in fellowship with nary a frown. They'll cover long tables with cloths for the lovely display, sweet treats in such an aromatic and tasteful array. After all the hours that have been spent drizzling and dicing, whisking and whipping and spreading more icing, after all the beating and blending and careful preparation, now it's time for us to step up, the congregation. The place for the sale, beside the sanctuary and gym, just don't leave the church service before the last hymn. You may find sugar cookies shaped like bells, stars, and trees, and you can be sure they'll be guaranteed to please. All proceeds go to missions, HVO birthdays, and Habitat too, meals for our County Learning Center and Wesley Foundation students at WCU. Look for cookies with peppermint or sprinkles, maybe even cheese straws. Remember that everything you purchase is for a good cause. Keep in mind that these filled containers would make such a good gift. Buy for yourself and for others who may need a lift. Do you have concerns about calories or extra pounds expected? No worries there. UWF says donations will be gladly accepted. The organizers thank you for your support. Their gratitude sincere. They hope to see everyone at the Cookie Walk next year. And happy buyers will exclaim as they drive from the church out of sight, "Yummy sweet treats for all, bite after bite."
Today is a celebration of the new creation of the cosmic Christ in 3 movements. Psalm 8. O Lord, our sovereign, how majestic is your name in all the earth. You have set your glory above the heavens. Out of the mouths of babes and infants you have founded a bulwark because of your foes, to silence the enemy and the avenger. When I look at your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars that you have established, what are humans that you are mindful of them, mortals that you care for them? You have made them a little lower than God and crowned them with the glory and honor. You have given them dominion over the works of your hands. You have put all things under their feet, all sheep and oxen, and also the beasts of the field, the birds of the air, and the fish of the sea, whatever passes along the paths of the seas. O Lord, our sovereign, how majestic is your name in all the earth. Friday is my day off. A week ago, Thursday night, I drove over to our house in Asheville so I could cut up the apocalypse of fallen trees with my chainsaw. I got there late. I'm unloading my tools into the garage, and then it just occurs to me, I haven't turned on any lights, and yet it's so bright, I can clearly see everything. And so I look up at the sky, and it literally takes my breath away. Normally, I can't see the cosmos because of the forest, because of the trees, but now it's just an expanse. I leaned against the bed of my truck until my neck started hurting, but I couldn't move, I couldn't stop. I was mesmerized by the constellations and by this year's last supermoon. I've been there before. I know you have too. Camping as a kid, flat on my back in a midnight field, gazing at the stars. Family beach vacation at the Outer Banks last summer. One night, it was getting really late. It was like 8 o'clock, and inside the house, we're a pretty big family, and it was so loud, and I just had to get out of there. I went outside onto the back deck, and I'm leaning against the rail. I'm just looking at the sky, and I see this light moving, and at first I thought it was an airplane, and I realized, well, that's not an airplane, and then I thought it's a shooting star, and my heart's pounding a little faster, and I'm like, well, no. I said, that's not a shooting star. It's just going methodically and straight, and then it just disappeared. Like all of a sudden it was just gone. And I'm still looking at the sky, and it's not that long, and here comes another one, and it's the exact same place, and it's the exact same thing. I knew it wasn't an airplane, and I decided, okay, it's not a shooting star, and poof, it's gone. And then here comes a third one, and it's the same thing. And now I'm seriously thinking, there's some kind of like alien invasion happening. I run inside the house and I yell at everybody, y'all, you got to come out here and see this. And the whole house empties onto the back deck, and we're all looking up at the sky, and we're seeing this pattern. And we're all starting to kind of freak out. What's going on? I don't think we necessarily thought it was aliens, but maybe, some foreign country is doing something really bad. And then Silas, my Clemson graduate genius engineer, says, oh, it's Starlink. It's the Starlink satellite. I'm fascinated by such things. I go to the NASA website and I read about the Webb satellite. The Webb satellite, it's crazy, it orbits around the sun, unlike the Hubble Space Telescope, which orbits around the Earth, which is also pretty cool. But what's really fascinating is not only the stories that come out of it, the stuff that they're finding, but it's the images that you can see. Go to NASA's website and look at the images from the Webb satellite, and it will blow your mind. To know that galaxies beyond ours are still being created, farther and farther out. The black holes that they're finding, the stuff that they're learning. And it's just so big. It's a mystery unfolding before our eyes. Keith Stiles is a beekeeper and a friend, and he gave me a 16-ounce jar of honey. Now, some facts about that. Tens of thousands of bees flew some 112,000 miles in a relentless pursuit of nectar gathered from 4.5 million flowers. flowers. That's my 16-ounce jar of honey. And every one of those foraging bees was female. And by the time each of them died, and they only lived 6 weeks during the honey-making season, she would have flown about 500 miles in 20 days outside the hive. While these bees were flying themselves to death, production was happening inside the hive with amazing efficiency. So a bee brings the nectar into the hive, carried in her honey stomach. And this bee is greeted by a younger receiver bee who relieves her of her load and then deposits the nectar into a cell, reducing its water content and raising its sugar level by fanning it with her wings and regurgitating it over 200 times. Meanwhile, other bees are also fanning with their wings all of these cells over 25,000 times until the nectar is turned into honey. That's what turns the nectar into honey. And so when the honey is ripe, the wax specialists come in and they cap off all the cells. That's how every single ounce of every jar of honey in the world is brought into being. Every gulp of raw honey is a distinct, unique, unadulterated medley of plant flavor, a sweet, condensed garden in your mouth, writes Holly Bishop, an awed amateur beekeeper trying her level best with ordinary English to capture a miracle. It all makes me feel very small. From the bigness of the galaxies to the bigness of this beehive, like I'm a speck of dust on a speck of dust. Select verses from Job chapter 38. Then the Lord answered Job out of the whirlwind. Where were you when I laid the foundation of the earth? Tell me if you have understanding. Who determined its measurements? Surely you know. Or who stretched the line upon it? On what were its bases sunk? Or who laid its cornerstone? When the morning stars sang together, and all the heavenly beings shouted for joy. Have you commanded the morning since your days began, and caused the dawn to know its place? Have you entered into the springs of the sea, or walked in the recesses of the deep? Have the gates of death been revealed to you, or have you seen the gates of deep darkness? Have you comprehended the expanse of the earth? Do you know the ordinances of the heavens? Can you establish their rule on the earth? Can you lift up your voice to the clouds so that a flood of waters may cover you? Can you send forth lightnings so that they may go and say to you, here we are? God seems to put Job in his small place. John Ortberg tells the story of Leon, Joseph, and Clyde. They all suffered from a Messiah complex. And it was not just a touch of narcissism or a dash of grandiosity. They were 3 chronic psychiatric patients at a hospital in Ypsilanti, Michigan, all diagnosed with a psychotic delusional disorder. Each one maintained that he was the reincarnation of Jesus Christ. Each one believed that he was the central figure around whom the world and the entire universe revolved, the 3 little messiahs. The psychologist caring for them was Milton Rokeach, and he wrote The 3 Christs of Ypsilanti, wrote about his attempt to help these men come to grips with the truth about who they were, to help them learn to just be Leon, Joseph, and Clyde. So Rokeach spent 2 years working with the men, but change came hard, and it was as if they weren't sure that they could bear to live at the thought of them not being who that they thought they were. I mean, they could be rational many times, But as Rokeach put it, they would hold on to messianic delusions and these distortions of reality. So he decided to try an experiment. And in this experiment, he put the three men into one small group. They slept in adjacent beds to each other. They ate every meal together. They all worked the same jobs. And every day they had group discussions. Rokeach just wanted to see if rubbing up against other would-be messiahs might diminish their delusion. The experiment resulted in some interesting conversations, as you can imagine. One of the men would claim, "I am the Messiah, the Son of God. I am on a mission. I was sent here to save the earth." And Rokeach would ask, "Well, how do you know?" He would say, "Well, God told me." And then one of the others would counter, "I never told you any such thing." And on it would go. The bitter irony is the very delusion to which they clung so tenaciously is what cut them off from life. To stop being Messiah was terrifying to them, but it would have been their salvation. If Leon, Joseph, and Clyde could have stopped competing for the power to be the Messiah, they could have become Leon, Joseph, and Clyde. What little progress they made, Rokeach said, was from their togetherness. But that change was small, and it was just this glimmer that shone very bright. It did not last very long. If one person wants to be God, they have to settle for living in a tiny universe where there's only space for one other person. If I keep the pond small, then it's much easier for me to be a big fish. But the pond isn't small. The pond is big, and it can be terrifying. If God is so far out there, creating galaxies so far away, how is it possible that God can even think about or see me? We find ourselves singing with the psalmist, "What are humans, O God, that you are mindful of us? What are mortals, O God, that you care for us?" Colossians 1:15-20. He is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn of all creation. For in him all things in heaven and on earth were created, things visible and invisible. Whether thrones or dominions or rulers or powers, all things have been created through him and for him. He himself is before all things, and in him all things hold together. He is the head of the body, the church. He is the beginning, the firstborn from the dead, so that he might come to have first place in everything. For in him all the fullness of God was pleased to dwell, and through him God was pleased to reconcile himself to all things, whether on earth or in heaven, by making peace through the blood of his cross. It's in Peter's second letter that he writes, "With the Lord, one day is like 1,000 years, and 1,000 years are like one day." God's time is different. The cosmic Christ is outside of time as we know it. We mark time with the sun and the moon and the stars. But God exists beyond our galaxy, beyond our time. So Jesus was the beginning. Jesus was the creator of all things. And Jesus, the creator, became the creature. And Jesus, the creature, died a creature's death. Luke gives us some kind of sense of the mystery of all that. At the very end of his gospel, he tells of the disciples, the followers of Jesus, who are now hiding away in a room because they've seen all of this happen. They've seen Jesus live his life in this amazing way, but then they've also seen him die. They've seen him bleed. He was done. They saw it. The tomb on Easter morning was empty, but that just means the body wasn't there. And now they're in this room after they've experienced all of that, surely thinking that we're next, the Romans, the religious rulers are coming after us. And then all of a sudden Jesus is just there. Jesus just appears. And he does that thing that Jesus does. He says, peace. Jesus brings peace in the midst of our chaos. And he does that. And he says, don't be afraid. I am not a ghost. And then he invites them to hold on to him. He says, I am flesh and I am bones. How can that be? Jesus is flesh and he is bones. And he says, hold me, touch me. He is the first fruits of what's to come. And then he says, I'm really hungry. Have you got something to eat? And so they give him some broiled fish. And he eats it in their presence and they see it. And this is the thing that they knew. Even though all of it had to be a mystery. What they knew is that there's something going on. The man's name was Robert Williams. He died and he went to heaven. And so he's checking in at the pearly gates, and the angel at the desk said, and the name? And he says, Williams. First name, please. Robert. Everybody knows me. Well, Robert, we have 413 billion Robert Williams here. Could you be more specific? Well, but you know, here in Gilmer County, they always just call me Bob. Well, that helps, Bob. Now we're down to 193 billion. My close friends call me Buddy. Okay, Buddy. Now we're doing well, 97 billion. Could you help me a little more? Well, I lived out on the road going up. No, what planet? Well, it was the Earth. It was the Earth. That's good. What country? The U.S. of A. Would you give me the state? It was Georgia. And the county? I told you the county. Gilmer. Now would you give me the address? Ah, I see. You are Robert Williams. The other night I was at home sitting by the fire, and I was reading. And I was reading that in Celtic wisdom, the earth is sacred. Every tree and bush, every flower and creature, every hill and mountain is on fire with the divine. The life within all life is holy. Pierre Teilhard de Chardin was a 20th century French scientist, a Jesuit priest, and a mystic. And he powerfully articulated this Celtic awareness that all matter is sacred. He said, at the very heart of matter is the heart of God. The deeper we move in any created thing, the closer we approach the life from which all life has come. When we experience the beat of this sacredness deep within us, or encounter it in the body of the earth or the body of another, we have sense of being addressed by name. In other words, the life at the heart of all life is not just energy, it's presence. The universe is radically relational. I'm sitting by the fire reading Celtic wisdom, and Scott calls. And so we talk about all of this. And Scott says, you know, sometimes I just want to go back and work the farm where everything makes sense. And I thought, you know, that's it. How am I to participate in this cosmic drama unfolding into God's mysterious future? I work the farm each day as it comes, and I wonder at the mystery of the soil, and as I kneel in the dirt, I marvel at the miracle of the seed and of the tomato, and I notice that it gets under my fingernails. And I might remember that before time as I know time existed, God strolled into the garden, got down into the dirt, and gave it breath. And the dirt under God's fingernails has a name. As I see it, the miracle of this whole thing is that heaven knows my name. God knows my name. And God's great desire, revealed in the cosmic life of Jesus, is that I will come to know and love yours. Amen.
Sing these words on the screen. There is power, power here in this hour, this hour. We're all together, together, waiting here as one. Sing that again. There is power, power this hour, we're all together, together, waiting here as one. Whoa, 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 hear the sound of heaven. Whoa, 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 mighty rushing wind. Whoa, 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 calling for revival. God, let your fire fall again. It's burning in my soul. Burning in my soul. All your sons and your daughters dreaming the dreams of their fathers, seeing the signs and the wonders, the kingdom of God. power, power. Here in this hour, we're all together.